Ivan and Amina made a bold choice not to pay attention to the whispers behind their backs and the sidelong glances of the residents of the town. Ever since they decided to focus only on their feelings, their relationship began to blossom. Every day brought something new, and their bond grew stronger. At first, Ivan felt awkward because of the age difference and cultural differences. He understood that Amina was younger than him and worried that she might be judged for the choice she had made. He saw people whispering around him as the two of them walked around the city, and how friends and neighbors who had been friendly until recently wouldn't recently been Hausa, clearing away or crossing the street. But Amina was adamant. Her confidence and fortitude inspired Ivan. She didn't just ignore prejudice, she lived her life the way she wanted, with ease and freedom that had always seemed unattainable to him. Her laughter rang like bells as they strolled along the river together, and Ivan couldn't help but succumb to her vital energy.
Have you ever thought about what others think? What is it?
He asked one day when they were sitting on a park bench.
Of course I was thinking,
she replied, looking into his eyes with a soft smile.
But you know, Ivan, I decided for myself that the opinions of other people do not determine my life. I want to be happy, not live by someone else's rules.
These words stung Ivan. He realized that he also needed to learn to live for himself and not for others. From that moment on, he began to open up more to Amina. He told her about his fears and doubts, about how long he had felt lost and lonely after his wife's death.
When my wife died, I thought that all the good things in life were over. I felt that I had only to wait for my end. But you have shown me that there is always a place for a new beginning, for a new joy.
Amina listened to him attentively, nodding, her eyes filled with warmth and understanding. She knew that her support and understanding meant a lot to Ivan. For her, he was not just an older man, but also a man who showed her another side of life, full of history and wisdom.
You have taught me a lot, Ivan. For example, how to appreciate simple things, how to enjoy every day despite the difficulties. You've become someone very important to me.
Ivan felt the warmth of her words spreading in his chest. He realized that they had become really close to each other. Their relationship no longer seemed wrong or unusual to him. It was as natural as breathing. One day they decided to spend an evening together at Ivan's house. He cooked dinner, a simple dish of potatoes and meat, which he always liked. Amina brought sweets with her, which she bought at the market. They laughed and talked all evening, sharing stories from their lives.
You know, I never thought I'd be able to laugh like that again,
he said, as they finished their tea.
Your presence brings so much light to my house.
I'm glad that I can be here with you, Ivan. You're teaching me to see the world differently. I appreciate it.
Ivan felt his heart fill with joy. He couldn't remember the last time he'd felt so alive. Their conversations continued late into the night. They discussed the books they loved, the movies they watched, and the dreams each of them had. They learned that they have a lot in common. Despite the age difference and cultural differences, Ivan talked about his childhood dreams of becoming a traveler, and Amina shared her plans for the future. She wanted to see the world, explore different cultures, and perhaps one day open her own school to share knowledge with others.
I think you can make all your dreams come true,
he said, smiling.
You're strong, smart, and persistent.
And you? Have you ever thought about going on a trip again?
Ivan thought about it. He really hadn't thought about traveling for a long time. He believed that his time had passed, that he was already too old for such adventures. But now, next to Amina, he felt that everything could still be possible.
Maybe I would have made up my mind with you,
he said softly, looking into her eyes. These words made Amina smile. She saw that a spark was rekindling in Ivan, and she wanted to support him in this.
Then let's start with something simple. How about visiting the old castle on the hill outside the city? I heard there's an amazing view of the surrounding area.
Ivan nodded, feeling that this was a good start. Their communication became more and more open and deep. They shared not only their joys but also the fears that bothered them. Amina told Ivan about her family, how difficult it was for her to leave her native country, and how she feels lonely in a strange place.
Sometimes I feel that I will never be able to find a place where I will feel completely at home. But with you, I feel protected.
Ivan realized that her words were full of sadness and hope. He decided he had to do everything he could to help her feel better.
We can create our own home here in this city, far from the whole world. A place where we will be happy.
Amina nodded, feeling that he was sincere. She knew that a lot of difficulties awaited them, but she was ready to face them face to face if Ivan was around. So their days went on. With each new conversation, with each new experience, their bond became stronger. They started planning small trips and walks to explore the surroundings, find new interesting places, and just enjoy each other's company. They found in this simple happiness to be together and share their lives.
You know, I am becoming more and more convinced that our meeting was not accidental. We had to meet to change each other for the better.
I think so too, Ivan. Life sometimes gives us amazing surprises.
These words reflected their shared feeling. They were grateful that fate had brought them together. Despite all the obstacles and differences, they realized that their bond was more than just love or affection. It was the union of two souls who found in each other what they had been looking for a long time. Every day, Ivan and Amina felt that they were getting closer. They learned to trust each other, share their feelings, and support each other. Their relationship grew into something more than just a romantic connection. It was a true friendship built on mutual respect and understanding. One evening, after another walk, Ivan stopped on the threshold of the house and looked at Amina.
I never thought that I would be able to find someone who understands me the way you do. You are a gift that I never expected to receive.
Amina smiled and took his hand.
And you are my light in this new and unexplored world. I am grateful for every moment I have spent with you.
They stood like that, holding hands, under the light of the moon, and realized that they had found something special in each other. They knew that there were still many challenges ahead, but they were confident that they could overcome everything together. After all, their love was sincere and deep, and they were ready to move forward despite all obstacles. As Ivan and Amina's relationship became more visible, the town began to react to their union. In a small community where everyone knew each other, any deviation from the norm instantly became the subject of discussion. Ivan and Amina were prepared for their relationship to raise questions and surprise, but they did not expect to face such a level of condemnation and distrust. At first, it was just sidelong glances on the street and whispers behind my back. Some of the townspeople looked at them curiously, others with obvious disapproval. People started discussing them at the market, in local cafes, and even in church. Gossip and rumors spread quickly, turning Ivan and Amina into the main topic of discussion.
Did you see them holding hands?
Women whispered at the vegetable stalls.
Yes, so old and she's so young. What attracted her to him?
They answered with their mouths pursed. Some of Ivan's friends also began to shy away from him. They didn't understand how he could get in touch with a girl who was not only much younger, but also from a different culture. They considered it strange and inappropriate for a man of his age. However, not everyone in the town was against them. There were also those who saw in their relationship something more than just infatuation or temporary mental confusion. These people understood that Ivan and Amina had found in each other what they had been looking for a long time, and their feelings were sincere. Victor, Ivan's old friend, was one of those people. He had known Ivan for many years and had seen how he had changed after his wife's death. Victor understood how lonely and lost Ivan felt and was glad that he finally found someone who gave him back the joy of life. One day, when Ivan and Amina were walking in the park, Victor came up to them. He smiled broadly and greeted them both warmly.
Ivan, Amina, it's great to see you. How are you?
Ivan tensed slightly, waiting for another comment about their relationship, but Victor's expression was friendly.
Hello, Victor. We're fine, thank you.
Hello, Victor. Thank you for the kind words.
Victor noticed a slight anxiety in Ivan's eyes and decided to immediately dispel his fears. You know, Ivan, Amina, I'm really happy for you. I see that you are happy together, and that is the main thing. Don't pay attention to those who judge you. They just don't understand. Ivan felt some of the weight lifted from his shoulders when he heard these words. He hadn't heard anything like this from his friends in a long time.
Thank you, Victor. Your words mean a lot to us. Sometimes it seems that the whole world is against us.
Not the whole world, Ivan. I will always support you, and I'm sure there will be others who will see in your relationship what I see.
These words of support from Victor helped Ivan and Amina a lot. They realized that not everyone in the town was against them, and this gave them the strength to continue. Gradually, thanks to people like Victor, they began to gain the respect and support of a part of the local community. Among those who supported them was also Lydia, an elderly woman known for her wisdom and kindness. She often sat on a bench in the park and watched the life around her. Lydia saw Ivan and Amina walking together and understood that their relationship was special. One day, As they were passing by, she invited them to sit down next to her.
Ivan, Amina, sit down with me. I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time.
Ivan and Amina sat next to Lydia, feeling her warm and friendly energy. Lydia smiled at them, and the understanding and wisdom accumulated over the years could be seen in her eyes.
I know what people are saying, but believe me, I've learned one thing in my life: love doesn't look at age or where you come from. She comes when you least expect her, and exactly when you need her the most.
Amina looked at Lydia gratefully. Her words touched her to the core.
Thank you, Lydia. It is very important for us to know that not everyone condemns us.
People will always talk because they are afraid of what they don't understand, but true feelings don't need approval. They exist on their own, and that makes them real.
After this conversation, Ivan and Amina felt much better. They realized that they were not alone, and that there were those in their community who were ready to support them. This realization strengthened their bond and gave them the strength to continue on their way. However, despite the support of some residents of the town, the condemnation from others did not stop. Every time Ivan and Amina walked down the street, they felt eyes on them, some curious, others contemptuous. They heard how they were discussed, how they said that such a relationship could not be real, that it was just a hobby or a whim. One day, passing by a local cafe, Ivan and Amina heard several women discussing them around the corner.
I heard she's only with him for the money.
One of them said, loudly and deliberately.
Yes, of course, what else to expect?
Another added.
He is an old man and she is young and beautiful. Everything is clear.
Amina felt her heart constrict with pain. She was used to such words, but each time they hurt her. Ivan squeezed her hand, trying to support her.
Don't listen to them, Amina. They don't know what they're talking about.
Amina nodded, trying to hold back her tears. She knew that Ivan was right, but the pain from such words was too strong. She was always taught to be strong, not to show her feelings, but sometimes it was difficult. Trying to distract themselves from the condemning words, they decided to go to the Goethe Park. There they met another person who turned out to be on their side. It was Maria, a young mother who often walked in the park with her young son.
Ivan, Amina, I'm glad to see you. Don't pay attention to these chatterboxes. I know that you have sincere feelings. Don't let them break you.
Ivan and Amina smiled gratefully at Maria. They knew that not everyone could understand their relationship, but every support was very important to them.
Thank you, Maria. It really supports us when we know that not everyone is against us.
Maria nodded, realizing what her words meant to them.
I see the way you look at each other. This can't be a sham. People will always talk, but it's important how you feel.
These words filled the hearts of Ivan and Amina with warmth again. They knew that their feelings were real and sincere, and the support of people like Maria, Victor and Lydia gave them the strength not to give up. Every day more and more residents of the town began to see something special in their relationship. People who initially condemned them began to notice how sincere Ivan and Amina are with each other, how they support and care for each other. Gradually, public opinion began to change. Although some remained skeptical, others began to realize that their love was real and worthy of respect. One evening, when Ivan and Amina were walking around the city, a young guy named Sergei approached them. He was the son of a local store owner and worked there as well. He used to be among those who were skeptical about their relationship, but now his opinion has changed.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ivan, Amina. I just wanted to say, I've misjudged you before. Now I understand that the feelings are real. Forgive me for my words.
Ivan looked at Sergei in surprise, but there was no anger or resentment in his eyes, only sincere surprise and gratitude.
Thank you, Sergei. Your words mean a lot to us.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate your understanding.
These little moments when people changed their minds became a real blessing for Ivan and Amina. They saw that their efforts were not in vain, that their love was really capable of changing the hearts and thoughts of others. And this understanding gave them new strength to fight for their happiness. Despite all the obstacles, Ivan and Amina continued to live their lives, knowing that their love is more than just a relationship. It was an example of how love and support can overcome any prejudice and stereotypes. They understood that there were still many difficulties ahead, but every day they became stronger and their bond became stronger. As time passed, they began to notice that the condemning looks were gradually changing to softer ones, and the whispers behind their backs were subsiding. People who had previously condemned them began to see that their love was real, that it did not depend on age, culture, or the opinions of others. They saw how Ivan and Amina supported each other, how they laughed together, how they held hands despite everything. Ivan and Amina realized that their story is more than just a romance between two people. This is a story about how love can overcome all obstacles if it is sincere and real. They knew that there were still many challenges ahead, but they were confident that they could overcome them together, with each other's love and support. Ivan and Amina, having decided to strengthen their relationship, soon realized that their differences were not only in age or life experience, but also in deeply rooted cultural traditions and worldviews. They realized that every little thing, every gesture, and every word can have different meanings in their cultures, and this can affect their interaction and perception of each other. Instead of avoiding these differences, they decided to make them a part of their life together, learn from each other, and find joy in discovering new things. The first step towards mutual understanding was Amina's decision to introduce Ivan to elements of her African culture. Amina grew up in a tradition-rich environment where every aspect of life was steeped in cultural customs and rituals. It was always important for her to keep in touch with her roots. Even when she was far from home, she understood that her culture was more than just a set of customs. It was a part of her essence that shaped her personality, outlook on life, and relationships with others. Amina decided to start with a simple one, with food. For her, cooking has always been not just a duty, but also an act of love and care, a way to express her identity and share something important. She suggested that Ivan try to cook several African dishes together, which were especially important to her. Ivan, always open to new things, accepted her offer with interest. Cooking has become a special ritual for them. Amina explained to Ivan how to use spices correctly, which gave the dishes a unique taste and aroma. She talked about each ingredient, what role it plays in her culture, and how its use is passed down from generation to generation. Ivan was surprised to learn that some of these ingredients have symbolic meaning or are associated with certain family traditions. For example, he learned that the ginger root in the culture of Amina symbolizes strength and endurance, and paprika the warmth of the hearth and hospitality. During the cooking process, they often laughed, especially when Ivan, trying to repeat after Amina, added too much pepper to the sauce or forgot how long to keep the meat on a fire. These moments were not just cooking lessons for them, but also an opportunity to better understand each other. Ivan began to realize that Amina's culture is not just exotic, but also a rich world filled with meanings and symbols. After several such culinary evenings, Ivan decided that he also wanted to share something important from his culture with Amina. It was important for him to show her that his traditions also have deep significance, and that he wants her to get to know him better once again through the prism of his cultural heritage. Ivan suggested that Amina spend the evening in Russian. He told her about the old traditions of his family, when on winter evenings the whole family gathered together at the table to play board games, drink hot tea with jam and Leo, and listen to the stories of the elders. He remembered how his mother baked pies, how they all sat by the fireplace and talked about life, and how these moments were full of warmth and comfort. Amina gladly agreed to try something new for herself. She listened with interest to Ivan when he told her about his memories. It was amazing for her to find out how similar their traditions were, despite all the differences. In her culture, it was also customary to spend evenings with family, telling stories and sharing experiences, maintaining and strengthening family ties. When Ivan and Amina started spending Russian evenings, they found that it helped them get even closer. Ivan showed Amina how to cook borscht and cabbage pies, explaining that these dishes symbolize home comfort and care. They went to the forest together to pick mushrooms, which they then pickled and ate in winter. Amina was delighted with this new tradition for her and studied with interest all the subtleties that Ivan showed her. During these culinary experiments, they discovered that their taste preferences are not so much different. Amina enjoyed eating borscht and pies, and Ivan fell in love with African dishes with rich spices. They began to mix elements of their cuisines, creating new, unique dishes that combined the best of both cultures. One of the significant moments on their way to mutual understanding was the celebration of traditional holidays. Amina suggested that Ivan spend one of the African holidays, which she had been celebrating in her family since childhood. It was a harvest festival, which symbolized gratitude for the gifts of the earth and unity with nature. In her culture, this holiday was a time of joy, songs and dances, a time when all family and friends gathered together to share the fruits of their labor and celebrate the cycle of life. Ivan accepted her offer with interest. He wanted to understand how these holidays affect Amina, what feelings and memories they evoke in her. Amina told him that in her culture such holidays have a deep meaning and are associated with ancient beliefs and customs. She explained that on this day it is important to thank the earth and the ancestors for their generosity and fertility, for continuing to support life. They prepared for the holiday together. They decorated the house in traditional colors, cooked special dishes, and even learned several African songs. Amina showed Ivan the traditional dances that they performed in her family. Ivan felt awkward at first, trying to repeat the movements, but soon immersed himself in the festive atmosphere and began to feel the rhythm and energy of the dance. This holiday became an important moment for them when they could feel like a part of something bigger. Ivan realized that the traditions and customs of Amina are not just beautiful rituals, but also a way to feel connected to the ancestors, the earth and nature. He felt his own cultural perceptions begin to expand, and this feeling filled him with joy and gratitude. After the holiday, Ivan suggested that Amina spend Christmas in Russian. For him, Christmas has always been an important holiday filled with meaning and warmth. He told her about his childhood memories, how she and her parents went to church for Christmas service, how then the whole family gathered at the table to have dinner, sang Christmas songs and exchanged gifts. Amina gladly accepted his offer. She understood that this holiday has a deep personal significance for Ivan and wanted to better understand his culture and traditions. Together they bought a Christmas tree, decorated it with toys and garlands, cooked traditional Christmas dishes, and even learned several Russian Christmas songs. At Christmas, they invited several close friends and neighbors to celebrate this holiday together. For Ivan, it was especially important to show Amina that even far from home, you can create an atmosphere of celebration and unity. Amina was touched by Ivan's care and attention, and they spent the evening in warmth and joy, feeling their bond grow deeper. Gradually, they began to realize that their differences were not an obstacle, but, on the contrary, could enrich their relationship. Ivan and Amina saw that the culture of each of them is not just the background on which their relationship develops, but also an important part of themselves, their worldview and perception of life. They began to appreciate each other's differences, seeing them as an opportunity to learn something new and expand their horizons. They began to talk more about their roots, how they were raised and what they were taught. Ivan told Amina about his family, how his parents always taught him to respect his elders and appreciate family traditions. Amina shared with him her memories of childhood, how she and her grandmother cooked traditional dishes and learned wisdom and patience from her. These conversations helped them realize that despite their differences, they have a lot in common. Both of them grew up in families where traditions and customs played an important role, where respect for elders and family support were the main values. They realized that their cultural heritage should not be an obstacle, but can become wealth if they learn to respect and understand each other. Ivan and Amina began to explore different aspects of their cultures, trying to find common ground. They learned that in both cultures there are many customs and traditions that symbolize the same thing: family unity, respect for ancestors, love of the earth and nature. This discovery brought them even closer together because they began to see each other not just as a partner, but also as a guide to a new, unexplored world. They began to study each other's stories and myths, sharing what was important to them. Ivan told Amina about Russian folk tales, which reflected the wisdom and spirit of the people, about heroes and wonderful creatures who protected the land and the people. Amina shared with him the legends of her people, telling about the spirits of nature and the ancestors who protected them and helped them in difficult times. These stories and legends have become a new way for them to communicate, a way to better understand each other and see the world through the eyes of another. They began to realize that their cultures were not as different as they had first thought. They saw that every culture has its own beauty and wisdom that can and should be appreciated. Ivan and Amina also started participating in each other's cultural events. They attended festivals and celebrations organized by their communities, learned new dances, songs and rituals. They enjoyed the experience because they felt they were getting closer to each other and to their roots. This process brought them even closer together. They realized that, despite all the differences, they could be happy together if they respected and supported each other. Their relationship has become stronger and deeper because they have learned to see in each other not just a partner, but also a friend, teacher and student, a person with whom you can share joy and sadness, successes and failures. Ivan and Amina continued their journey, knowing that there are still many discoveries and amazing moments ahead. They knew that their cultural differences were not a barrier, but a wealth that they could share with each other. And this realization filled their lives with joy and meaning, making every day special and unique. After meeting the families, Ivan and Amina faced new challenges which became a serious challenge for them. The families, despite their efforts, could not immediately accept their relationship. For Ivan's relatives, accustomed to traditional ways and established values, their union with Amina, a girl from another culture and much younger, was unexpected and even shocking. Doubts and distrust were in the air, and despite attempts to show his sincerity and mutual affection, Ivan felt that his family did not fully approve of his choice. Amina's family also expressed their concern. They, who grew up in a different cultural environment with different traditions and views on marriage and family, could not understand why she chose Ivan, who was older than her and belonged to a different culture. Despite all her explanations, they saw more dangers in their union than opportunities for happiness. While trying to support her, they still expressed their concern and doubts. These family disagreements began to put pressure on Ivan and Amina's relationship. They both felt torn between their feelings for each other and the desire to maintain good relations with their families. Gradually, this pressure began to affect their communication. Every conversation about the future was accompanied by underlying fears and doubts, which they did not dare to tell each other about. They tried to maintain a semblance of calm and confidence, but internal anxieties and insecurities grew. The society around didn't help either. Neighbors and acquaintances continued to discuss them, expressing their opinions on how to build a relationship correctly or incorrectly. These conversations, often filled with prejudices and stereotypes, only increased their insecurity. Internal fears and anxieties that already existed were exacerbated by public pressure. Ivan and Amina were tormented by questions: are they doing the right thing? Is their love worth the difficulties they have to go through? Ivan began to feel more and more withdrawn and depressed. He was afraid that, despite all his love for Amina, he might lose his children and destroy relations with relatives if he continued to go against their will. He felt responsible for their disappointment and anger. Every unfriendly remark from relatives or acquaintances brought him pain and doubts. Amina, in turn, also felt the pressure. She felt that her family did not accept her choice and that she had failed their expectations. It seemed to her that her act was seen as a challenge to family traditions and values. She worried that her love for Ivan might jeopardize her connection with her family, and this caused her deep pain. One evening, when their tension reached its peak, Ivan and Amina realized that they needed to do something to cope with this situation. They realized that they could not continue to live in a state of constant stress and internal conflict. They understood that their love was important, but their families, their support and acceptance also meant a lot. Both felt that it was necessary to find a way to maintain a balance between these two worlds. After much conversation and thought, they decided to seek help from a family psychologist. They both knew that it could help them better understand their feelings and learn how to deal with pressure. It was not an easy decision, especially for Ivan, who grew up in a traditional society where it was not customary to discuss his problems with strangers. But he understood that this might be the step they both needed. During the first sessions with the psychologist, Ivan and Amina felt somewhat awkward. It was difficult for them to openly talk about their feelings and fears. The psychologist, however, was friendly and knew how to create an atmosphere of trust. She started with simple questions about how they see their relationship and what is most important to them. Gradually, step by step, they began to open up. Ivan spoke about his fears of losing touch with his children and relatives, and how hard it is for him to hear criticism and disapproval from his family. He admitted that he sometimes feels selfish, choosing personal happiness instead of following traditional expectations. Amina also shared her feelings. She talked about feeling guilty in front of her family, about the fear that her choice might alienate them from her. A psychologist helped them see that their fears and anxieties are normal and that they should not be ashamed of their feelings. She explained that for a successful relationship, it is important to learn how to talk about your experiences and share them with each other. Gradually, Ivan and Amina began to better understand their emotions and the causes of their fears. They realized that their main problem was not their families or public opinion, but their own internal barriers and insecurities. At one of the sessions, a psychologist offered them the practice of open communication. It was an exercise in which they had to talk to each other about their innermost thoughts and feelings without fear of being judged or misunderstood. It wasn't easy at first. Ivan felt awkward, and Amina was afraid that her words might hurt Ivan. But gradually they began to open up. They talked about how much they were worried about the opinions of others, how they were afraid of losing touch with their families. Ivan said that he sometimes feels helpless and vulnerable, that he is scared by the thought that he may not cope with the expectations of his family and lose their respect. Amina shared her fear that her choice to be with Ivan could cause a breakup with her family. This process was painful, but necessary. They began to realize that despite all the differences and external pressure, they really love each other and want to be together. They realized that their fears and doubts are a normal part of any relationship, especially when it is faced with such difficult trials. They began to see that the main thing is to support each other and find common solutions to their problems. The psychologist also offered them the practice of gratitude. Every night they had to tell each other what they were grateful for in their relationship. This helped them focus on the positive aspects and what unites them. They began to notice that, despite all the difficulties, they have many reasons to be grateful to each other for support, for understanding, for love. Gradually, Ivan and Amina began to feel more confident in their relationship. They realized that their union is their choice, and only they can decide how to build their lives. They began to learn how to protect their relationship from external pressure and not let other people's opinions affect their happiness. They began to understand that love is not only feelings but also work on themselves and the relationships, willingness to support each other in any situation. They also realized that it is important not only to listen, but also to hear each other. During the sessions of the psychologist, they learned to notice the little things that they could have missed before: how Ivan's facial expression changes when he talks about his children, or how Amina starts to get nervous when it comes to her family. These little things help them understand each other better and become more attentive to their partner's feelings and experiences. Over time, they began to notice positive changes in their relationship. Ivan became more open and honest. He began to talk about his fears and experiences without fear of being misunderstood. Amina has learned to support him in difficult moments, not taking his words personally and not considering them a sign of weakness. They began to build their relationship on mutual respect and trust, realizing that this was the only way to overcome all difficulties. Ivan and Amina also decided that they need to spend more time together doing things that bring them joy and help them relax. They started playing sports together, going for walks in the park, watching movies and reading books. These simple but important moments helped them take their mind off the pressure and enjoy each other's company. Their meetings with the psychologist continued, and with each session they felt their bond getting stronger. They began to learn how to deal with external and internal obstacles, not allowing them to destroy their relationship. They realized that all the difficulties they face can be overcome if they act together, support each other, and believe in their love. At some point, they realized that they had reached a new level of understanding and trust. They were no longer afraid to talk about their feelings and experiences, nor were they afraid to be vulnerable to each other. Their relationship has become more mature and strong because they have learned to cope with difficulties together. They also decided that they needed to work on improving relations with their families. Ivan and Amina began to communicate more often with their relatives, explaining to them that their love is real and that they are really happy together. They tried to be open and honest, explaining their feelings and motives, showing that their choice to be together is not just a whim, but a conscious decision. Over time, their efforts began to bear fruit. Ivan and Amina's relatives began to see that their relationship was strong and sincere, that they really cared about each other and wanted to be together. Gradually, distrust and doubts began to go away, and understanding and respect came in their place. Public opinion has also begun to change. People, seeing how Ivan and Amina support each other, how they build their relationship on love and respect, began to realize that their union was not just a temporary hobby, but something deeper and more meaningful. They began to respect them for their courage and determination to go their own way, despite all the difficulties and obstacles. Ivan and Amina realized that, despite all the obstacles and trials, their love only became stronger. They learned to overcome difficulties together, support each other, and find common solutions to their problems. They realized that their relationship is not just a union of two people, but also a journey in which they learn, grow, and develop together. They knew that there were still many challenges ahead, but they were confident that they could overcome them because their love had become their support and source of strength. They understood that the main thing was trust and support, respect for each other's feelings and experiences. They knew that together they would be able to cope with all difficulties and build their happiness, despite all the obstacles and trials. Ivan and Amina continued to live their lives, knowing that their love is the most valuable thing they have. They were ready to work on their relationship, support each other, and move forward despite all the difficulties. They understood that this was the only way to build a real, strong and happy relationship that would withstand all the trials of time. When Ivan and Amina decided to live together, this decision was not just a step in their relationship, but a real symbol of their commitment to each other and their desire to build a future together. They understood that their union required not only the emotional but also the physical integration of their lives. Combining into one house was their first joint project, and they wanted this house to reflect both of them, their personalities, tastes, and cultural roots. Their search for the house took some time. They wanted to find a place that would become their common refuge, a place where they could start their new lives. As a result, they chose a small, cozy house on the outskirts of the town. The house needed renovation, but they saw this not as a problem, but as an opportunity to make it truly their own. The house was surrounded by a large garden, which provided many opportunities to create a cozy corner of nature. From the first days of their life together, they undertook repairs. Ivan, who had considerable experience in construction and repair, took over the project, but Amina was also actively involved. She brought her own ideas for the decor and decoration of the space. It was important to them that their home reflected not only practical needs but also their aesthetic preferences. During the renovation process, they learned a lot about each other, about tastes, about habits, about what makes them happy. The kitchen was the first room they decided to equip. Ivan wanted it to be functional and comfortable, with plenty of storage cabinets and a spacious work area, some must say. Amina also suggested adding bright elements that would remind her of home, bright tablecloths, ceramic pots and spices on the shelves. Together they created a space where they could cook together, combining Russian and African traditions, learning new things and enjoying the opportunity to share it with each other. The next stage was the renovation of the living room. They decided that it would be a place where they would spend a lot of time together, read, watch movies and invite friends. Ivan suggested putting up a fireplace that would give the room comfort and warmth, and Amina suggested using traditional African fabrics and carpets to create a bright and warm atmosphere. Together they chose upholstered furniture, comfortable armchairs and a sofa on which they could comfortably settle down on winter evenings. The garden has become a special place for them. Ivan gladly set about creating a vegetable garden where they could grow vegetables and herbs. Amina suggested creating flower beds where they would plant African and Russian flowers that would symbolize their cultural unity. The garden became a place where they spent a lot of time together, caring for plants and enjoying nature. In the process of creating their common home, Ivan and Amina not only renovated and equipped the space, but also made their plans for the future. They discussed what they wanted to do together, what projects to implement, and how their relationship would develop. Ivan suggested starting small by traveling to nearby towns and villages to get to know the surroundings better and enjoy time with each other. Amina supported this idea, adding that they could use these trips as an opportunity to explore new cultures and traditions. Gradually, their plans became more ambitious. They began to dream of long-distance travel to Africa so that Amina could show Ivan her homeland and to other countries to see the world and get new impressions. They wanted not only to travel, but also to study, discover new horizons and share this experience with each other. They also started thinking about possible joint projects. Ivan, with his experience in construction, suggested the idea of opening a small workshop where they could make furniture and interior items. Amina, for her part, offered to organize cultural events and workshops on traditional African cuisine and crafts. These ideas became a source of inspiration for them, and they began to look for opportunities to implement them. An important step in their future planning was the discussion of family expansion. They both knew that they wanted children, and this desire became an important topic for discussion. Ivan, who already had experience of fatherhood, was ready for new challenges and wanted to pass on his life experience to future children. Amina, in turn, dreamed of a large and friendly family where children could grow up in love and respect for different cultures. They discussed how they would raise their children and what values they wanted to convey to. For Ivan, it was important that children knew and respected the traditions of both cultures, were able to appreciate the simple joys of life and respect nature. Amina wanted children to grow up open to new things, not afraid to experiment and learn from their mistakes. Together they decided that they would try to create an atmosphere of love, support and understanding for children, where everyone can be themselves and develop at their own pace. Planning for the future helped them get even closer. They realized that their dreams and goals coincide in many ways and that they want the same thing: happiness, love and harmony in their home. Their common projects and plans have become an important source of inspiration and motivation for them. They began to see in their future not only difficulties and challenges, but also opportunities for growth and development. Gradually, their house became not just a place of residence, but a real symbol of their relationship. Every corner of this house reflected their efforts, care and love for each other. They were proud to have created this space together and thanked each other every day for their support and understanding. The house became their refuge from the outside world, a place where they could be themselves and enjoy each other's company. The common life brought them not only joy, but also new challenges. They learned to negotiate, find compromises, and respect each other's opinions. Every day they discovered something new about their partner, learned about his preferences and habits. This process was not always easy, but they realized that they were ready to work on their relationship and meet each other halfway. They began to build their own traditions. Every Saturday they organized a movie night where they chose the film in turn, once Ivan, the other time Amina. On Sunday, they cooked breakfast together, experimenting with recipes from different cuisines. They began to celebrate important dates and holidays, creating their own little rituals that strengthened their bond. As time passed, they began to notice how their house was filled with life and warmth. They furnished the rooms with handmade furniture, decorated the walls with photographs and paintings that reminded them of happy moments. Flowers bloomed in the garden, and they often spent evenings on the veranda, enjoying the sunset and talking about the future. Ivan and Amina understood that their life was just beginning, and there were many interesting things ahead of them. They were full of enthusiasm and desire to develop, learn and grow together. They knew that their future depended on themselves, on their efforts and willingness to support each other in any situation. They decided that they would continue to build their lives together, step by step, day by day, creating their happiness with their own hands. Their plans for the future have become even clearer and more specific. They decided that they would first complete the renovation and furnishing of the house, and then begin to prepare for new projects and travels. They wanted to be ready for any challenges and opportunities that life might bring them, and therefore tried not to rush, but also not to postpone for later what can be done now. They discussed how they would build their lives, what priorities they would put first. For Ivan, it was important that their home remained a place of comfort and peace, where they could relax and gain strength. Amina wanted their house to be open to friends and family, so that there would always be life and movement here. Ivan and Amina decided that they would continue to develop their skills and interests. Ivan began to study gardening in order to create a real paradise in the garden, and Amina became interested in cooking, creating new recipes that combined elements of different cultures. They supported each other in these endeavors, inspiring new achievements and opening new horizons for themselves. Gradually, they began to plan their first big trips. They decided to start with a trip to Africa, so that Amina could show Ivan her homeland, introduce him to its culture and traditions. They discussed which places they would like to visit, what to see, and what to learn. This journey has become for them a symbol of their joint growth and desire to learn and develop together. Then they planned a trip to Europe to see ancient castles, museums and cities, to get acquainted with the history and culture of other countries. They wanted to learn new things and bring something from each trip that could enrich their common life and make their home even warmer and more cozy. They also started discussing the possibility of expanding the family. They knew they wanted children and began to prepare for this important stage in their lives. They discussed what values they want to pass on to their children, how they will be raised, and what opportunities they will be given. Ivan and Amina wanted their children to grow up in an atmosphere of love and respect, to learn to understand and appreciate different cultures and traditions. Their plans for the future became not only dreams, but also concrete steps that they were going to take. They were full of enthusiasm and self-confidence, knowing that together they could overcome any difficulties and achieve all their goals. They were ready to work on their relationship, support each other, and move forward despite all the obstacles and challenges. Ivan and Amina realized that their common life is not just living together, but also a real job that requires effort, patience, and love. They have learned to appreciate every moment spent together, every achievement and every new step towards their dreams. They knew that their future depended on themselves, and they were ready to build it day by day, step by step, together. Over time, Ivan and Amina became more and more aware of the importance of their relationship. Their love, which initially seemed to be only a personal experience, gradually revealed its true value, turning out to be a powerful example for others. They noticed that their story is not just the story of two people who decided to be together, despite all the difficulties, but also an inspiration for many others who face similar challenges in their lives. Gradually, they began to feel that their love served as something more than just personal happiness. They saw how people around them changed under the influence of their example. Friends and neighbors who might previously have been skeptical or uncomprehending began to show interest and respect. Their questions became more sincere, and their looks became warmer. In the town where they lived, they began to talk not only about the strangeness of their union, but also about its depth, sincerity, and steadfastness. Ivan and Amina began to realize that their story is not just about love between two people of different ages and cultures, but also about the courage to be themselves, about the strength of the spirit, and the ability to see beyond the generally accepted norms. They saw how their example helped other people to overcome prejudice and find the strength to follow their hearts. This realization became a new stage in their relationship for them. They realized that they had to share their story with others in order to inspire people to be brave and open in love. Their home gradually became a place where people came for support and understanding. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers who heard about their story came to them to talk, ask questions, and get advice. Ivan and Amina willingly shared their experiences, telling how they managed to overcome difficulties and doubts, how they learned to trust each other and support each other in the most difficult situations. Their words were full of sincerity and warmth, and people felt it, finding a place in their home where they would always be listened to and understood. Ivan and Amina began to participate in the life of the community more actively. They realized that their story could be a source of strength and inspiration for others, and decided to use it to help people be more open and bold in their feelings. They began speaking at local events, talking about their experiences, sharing thoughts about what true love means and how important it is to be honest with yourself and your feelings. At these events, they talked about how important it is not to be afraid to be yourself, even if it goes against the expectations of society. They talked about how they coped with criticism and condemnation, how they learned to accept each other for who they are, and how important it is to support and respect your partner. Their words resonated with many listeners, and soon they were invited to various forums and seminars where they could share their experiences and inspire others. Ivan and Amina became mentors for many couples who faced similar difficulties. They held meetings and conversations, helping people find ways to mutual understanding and harmony in relationships. They shared their methods of overcoming conflicts, talked about how important it is to be able to listen and hear each other, how to build trust and mutual respect. These meetings became very popular, and their house was always full of people who were looking for advice and support. Gradually, their influence in the community began to grow. People saw that Ivan and Amina not only talk about love and understanding, but also live it every day. They became an example of how to build strong and harmonious relationships, despite all the obstacles and difficulties. Their story has become a symbol of the fact that true love is able to overcome any obstacles and change lives for the better. They also began to participate in charitable and community initiatives aimed at supporting families and strengthening family values. Ivan and Amina believed that their experience could help others and sought to do everything possible to support those in need of help and understanding. They organized events where families could discuss their problems, find support and inspiration for further development. Over time, their home became not just a place where they lived, but also a kind of center for those who sought understanding and support. People came here not only for advice, but also just to be in the atmosphere of love and harmony that Ivan and Amina created around themselves. They opened the doors of their home to everyone who needed companionship and warmth, and it became an important part of their lives for them. Ivan and Amina began to realize that their story was of great importance to others. They saw how their example inspires people to be more courageous and honest in their feelings, how it helps them find the strength to find out prejudice and stereotypes. They felt that their love was more than just personal happiness, it was a force that could change the world around them. They began writing articles and notes for local newspapers and magazines, sharing their thoughts on love, relationships and life. Their stories quickly became popular, and many readers found answers to their questions, support and inspiration in them. Ivan and Amina were glad that their experience could be useful to others, that they could share their wisdom and help people find their place in the world. Their love has become an example for many, showing that real feelings can overcome any obstacles and difficulties. They proved that love is not just emotions, but also work, effort and a willingness to be honest and open. They showed that true love requires courage and determination to go your own way, despite all obstacles and challenges. Ivan and Amina continued to live their lives, enjoying every moment and enjoying every day spent together. They knew that their path would not always be easy, but they were sure of one thing: together they would be able to overcome any difficulties and find their happiness, despite all the obstacles and challenges. Their story has become an example of how love and understanding can change the world for the better, how they can become a source of strength and inspiration for everyone who is ready to follow their heart. Over time, Ivan and Amina became famous not only in their town, but also outside it. They began to be invited to various conferences and seminars on family and relationship issues. They gladly accepted these invitations, seeing them as an opportunity to share their experiences and inspire others. They performed in front of different audiences, talking about their journey, how they overcame difficulties and found the strength to move on. At these meetings, They saw how their story touched people's hearts, how their words resonated and helped others. They saw tears in the eyes of the audience, heard words of gratitude, and realized that they were doing something really important. Their story became a source of inspiration for many who were looking for answers to their questions, who wanted to be honest with themselves and their feelings. Ivan and Amina became part of a large movement for sincerity and openness in love. They saw how their example helps people find the strength to fight prejudice and stereotypes, how it inspires them to be brave and honest. They knew that their story was not just about love, but also about the courage to be themselves, about the ability to see beyond conventional norms. They also began to participate in various community initiatives aimed at supporting families and strengthening family values. Ivan and Amina believed that their experience could help others and sought to do everything possible to support those in need of help and understanding. They organized events where families could discuss their problems, find support and inspiration for further development. Over time, their influence in the community began to grow. People saw that Ivan and Amina not only talk about love and understanding, but also live it every day. They became an example of how to build strong and harmonious relationships, despite all the obstacles and difficulties. Their story has become a symbol of the fact that true love is able to overcome any obstacles and change lives for the better. Ivan and Amina continued to live their lives, knowing that their love is the most valuable thing they have. They were ready to work on their relationship, support each other, and move forward despite all the difficulty. They understood that this was the only way to build a real, strong and happy relationship that would withstand all the trials of time. Their story has become an example for many, showing that love is not just feelings but also actions, a willingness to fight for their happiness and defend their values. They proved that true love is able to overcome any obstacles and trials, that it can become a source of strength and inspiration for those who are ready to follow their hearts. Together they began a new chapter of their lives, full of love, support, and mutual respect. They realized that their relationship is not just a story of two people, but something more that can inspire and support others. They continued to build their lives on the basis of the values they considered important: love, understanding, respect, and willingness to support each other in any situation. Ivan and Amina have become an example for many, showing that love is not just feelings but also actions, a willingness to fight for their happiness and defend their values. They proved that true love is able to overcome any obstacles and trials, that it can become a source of strength and inspiration for those who are ready to follow their hearts. Ivan and Amina continued to live their lives, enjoying every moment and enjoying every day spent together. They knew that their path would not always be easy, but they were sure of one thing: together they would be able to overcome any difficulties and find their happiness, despite all the obstacles and challenges.